Kimmie Weeks,
Our new Hub Youth Action Partner.
Suffering in extreme circumstances.
Well, you'll get the real speech. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's so good to be here today. You know, when I go to these conferences and meetings quite a bit, and I speak, and some events you go to, it's like there's no passion in the audience, and it's like I walk in as a speaker, and I'm like, geez, I need someone to motivate me because there is nothing. And then yesterday, as I walked into the room, I was just so amazed by the passion and the spirit and the energy. I was like, this is a group of people I want to spend my life around. And I'm just so happy. I want to give thanks to Sprite and Laura and all the people and Charlie and everybody at Hub who's given me this opportunity and the work you're doing. When I first heard the name Humanity Unites Brilliance, I said, this is just an incredible name. I want to meet the people who came up with this. Because the concept of that, the possibility of brilliance being united with humanity to change the world, is what's been absent for so long. We live in a period where our world has both the resources, the technology, and the know-how to end world poverty. But unfortunately, we also live in a point of time when at no other point in history has there been so much suffering and pain and hunger. Think about that for a moment. An era when we have the technology to end world poverty, but also an era when we see the most human suffering in history. That has not ended because humanity did not unite with brilliance until now. And change is about to happen. So for me, it's a shame when I think about that and the knowledge that so much can be done to end world poverty. And I believe that Hub is working to break this stronghold, that together we can say no more to hunger, and together we can say no more to poverty, and we can say no more to disease, and that no more should children go to bed hungry, and no more should children fight in rebel armies. Who should be in school? But it can only happen if we stand together as one people, realizing that we have power in numbers, that we can do so much, that the images that we see in the media of children who are going without hunger, having the image in your mind that some mother somewhere is sitting there and watching their children die from hunger. Imagine the pain that a mother or father would go through. Sometimes we hear the numbers of people who die from poverty and disease, and it's so easy to sit there when we say that millions of people are dying, and it's just the statistics. But imagine that each in that 1 or 2 million are kids that have names, that have parents, that had destinies that are being sniped away from them by something that they had nothing to do with. These could be our great statesmen. These could be the people who invented the cures or invent the cures for cancer and Alzheimer's and diseases that we're struggling to find cures for, but we're not finding because they're probably dying with the children in Africa and Asia. And we have to make that stop to change our world. It has to stop. You know, every time I sit and I say to people that I have a vision, I have a strong vision for the world. I have a vision of a world where no child is going without health care. I have a vision of a world where there's no more dying babies or starving elders. I have a vision that of a world that no longer cries from hunger, but sheds tears of joys. When mothers in Africa can unite with mothers in Europe, and mothers in Europe can unite with mothers in Asia for children, and mothers in America can no longer sit there and say Africa is too far away, but can say the sisters in Africa are my sisters. Their children are mine children, and I will do everything to help them. It's a world that's so possible. And I wonder if we can all share this vision. If we can all taste the joy. If we can grasp the possibility of this new world. Can you believe that this is not just a dream, this is not just a utopian situation, but it is a real possibility? I know they'd like you to believe that there's no hope. They'd like you to believe that Africa is going to keep going under and Africa will never rise again. They'd like you to believe that we as people are weak and can do nothing, that we have to depend on governments, and that the only hope for the world comes from superpower and powerful governments. They'd like you to believe that. That's the message that the mainstream media takes every day. I stand here today to tell you that they're lying. I stand here today to tell you that we have real strength and real power, and that strength lies not in governments, but it lies in individuals. They do not want us to realize this power because they know that when people unite as one, we will be far more powerful than any superpower and far more powerful than any multinational government. We are strong. My friends, I think and I truly believe that if we open our minds, we can truly awaken brilliance. Not just for the people here in the room, but the message must go out. It must go out across California. It must go out across Washington, D.C. It must travel to Europe. It must travel down to Africa. Everywhere people should be awakening brilliance. And Charlie, I challenge you that these events shouldn't just be happening in the U.S. We need to take it everywhere, even in the villages that we're impacting. Everybody should be awakened. You know, I believe that the challenges we face are great. The complexities of ending world poverty are many. And so many people sometimes when I speak says, this guy don't know what he's talking about. He's lost it. That there's no possibility that we can end poverty and it's just not possible. I've seen it. I've seen extreme human suffering. I've seen extreme poverty, but yet and still I believe it's true. When I grew up in Liberia during the 80s, we never before thought we would see any of the images of war in Liberia, any images of children holding guns or any image of children dying from starvation. We never thought that it would happen in Liberia. I remember in the 80s when I was growing up, the closest we came to human suffering was watching on TV and seeing the Ethiopian famine that was happening in the 80s. And I remember looking on the TV, I was 6 years old at this point, and looking on the TV and seeing those images of starving children with bloated stomach. And I would say to my mom, you know, how is it possible that there's children somewhere in the world who are living in these conditions? How is it possible that there's children somewhere in the world who there's flies on their bodies and they can't even move those flies from their bodies? And of course my mom used to say, well, even more reason for you to eat your food. But we never thought that it would come to us. And in 1989, I remember that a man named Charles Taylor had announced the start of the Liberian Civil War, and he said it would be a grand revolution, and he